brains, dress as well, little package.
Little package to try.
You are little. I'm little too, it's fine, I'm not insulting you.
No.
Okay, you tell me when we can go. I'm Kate Broddick with the Kate Broddick team, and you are in the vault, our newest podcast with the Anna Oliver with the agency in Toronto. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for making the big drive.
I love the drive out
and
here.
I apologize. I'm usually really early too, but as I was saying, we were doing a deal. So
for good reason.
A little bit late.
No problem.
And what I love right now is she's wearing these amazing shoes. They're Balenciaga?
No, these are Dior's.
Those are Dior's.
Yes.
And I was going to wear them in beige.
Perfect.
But
I want to shop your closet.
Yeah, there's two and they're big and I don't like to talk about it because it's embarrassing. But we're going to go right into this today because I'm so excited to have you. I have to say that I started becoming a fan, I'm going to call it, on Instagram. And what I think drew me so much to you was your poise, your class, and your professionalism.
Oh, thank you.
And I find that social media is such an interesting tool for that, because those who are really authentic and shine from the inside out, I feel like you can really notice it on their platforms. And when I knew we were going to do the Buzz conference panel together, I was like, now's my chance to ask her. She'll be on this because I wanted to hear so much from you.
Well, likewise, because I've been a fan of yours for so long too. And then seeing like this massive team that you have of wonderful women, and then you have a family of your own and everything. So I've admired you from afar as well. So I'm like, wow. So I was very excited.
Good.
And then when I found out I could have a fun country drive too, I love driving out here. So I was really looking forward to it.
I love that because you're in the city. So you probably don't get a whole lot of long country drives.
I do not. Actually, I was joking. It probably takes me the same amount of time to go one end of the city to the other in Toronto as it took me to get here. And today was way more fun.
That's good. That's good. Well, I'm really excited to get into this, but what I would love for you to do first is tell us a little bit about your career, when you started, how long you've been in the business.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit about your brokerage too, because funny enough, our previous guest was also from the agency. So I'm a fan of a lot of people in the agency, Matt Lee and Eddie as well.
Yes.
And so just a little bit about the history of your career.
So I started, I'm going into my 20th year. I started in 2003 and I actually started in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And I'm not from Halifax either. So when I graduated from university, I think we both went to Brock University too.
Yes.
Yeah. So I graduated with a degree in sports management, and I wanted to be the next Jerry Maguire. And unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of opportunity in the sports field. And I took a job in Bosnia. And I worked with the infantry for 6 months.
Wow.
And decided that, contrary to my entire family, I'm from a long line of military service. Both my parents were military, my mom, my dad, my brother, my 3 sisters, all military. We're very civic and patriotic. And I served my country and decided that I was better served not working with the military, really respect it, and got to see firsthand what our men and women do abroad and locally. So I got back from Bosnia in 2003 and I went to visit my sisters in Halifax, and I had to figure out what I was going to do. And in Nova Scotia, and I think at the time, I think it still is, it was a 3-week course, which is scary if you think about it. And signed up for my course, and I was licensed in a month and hit the ground running.
Wow.
Yes.
We actually have a lot in common.
Okay.
Because I did kinesiology at Brock, and sports management and kinesiology were quite...
Yes.
They had a lot of similar classes.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that. And you're patriotic, and I have to say I am also a lover of our country.
Yes, yes.
So I love that. That must have been such an experience.
It really was, because the best way to describe it, like I wasn't there during the heavy stuff. We were there mostly for stabilization, and the mission for the military at that point was retrieval of landmines. And then to establish the rule of law into these war-torn countries. And when you have an opportunity to see what our men and women do, locally, and abroad, it's quite amazing. And then you really come back to Canada with an appreciation of our freedoms and what people will fight for, and meeting people who have lost everything and seeing like they're just happy to be alive. I get kind of choked up thinking about it.
That's amazing though.
So you come back with such an appreciation of what we have. And
what a perspective.
Yeah.
Because would you say that that contributed? Because I find you, there's a lot of people that I feel very close to with energy. I'm a big energy reader.
Me too.
When I walk into a room, I can almost feel like a hum, and that hum elevates in sound for me.
I'm very much on that.
People, right? And that's because everyone emits energy. And I find you very calming.
Oh, thank you.
And I fall in love with people who are calming to me, because in our day-to-day life, especially as realtors, it's go, go, go.
It is. It's nonstop.
And even just sitting here, I feel that element of like calm come over me. And that's probably why I said you were so poised.
Oh, thank you.
Right? You're very controlled. And I think that that's a beautiful quality. How did you go from military, serving country, to real estate?
So growing up, because I was a military kid, like we moved around a little bit. So homes and getting a new home, checking out new neighborhoods was like sort of an exciting thing for us. Yeah. And there's always realtors around in our families, so like helping us. And I love the opportunity to help people. And I love homes, and I love basically just everything that it could, the potential is unlimited.
Yeah.
And it just really it hit everything. Like you could be creative, you could be business minded, you could help people. It's ever changing, it's entrepreneurial. So it really checked a lot of boxes. And when I got into it, it just felt like a natural thing for me. So I signed up for the course, and then agents would come in and kind of promote their brokerages. And I remember these two guys came in. I'm like, they seem to be doing okay, so I'll just go there. And I got there. They gave me a phone list and a headset. And because I wasn't from Halifax, I'm like, I'll just give it a go. And if I don't sell anything, I'll move back to Ontario. I grew up in Kingston. And I said, I'll just give it a shot. What do I have to lose?
Yeah.
So they gave me this phone list, and I hate cold calling more than anything. And anybody who knows me, I talk very openly about it. I don't like it. I'm not good at it. I don't enjoy it. But I'm like, I got to give it a go. If this is how you do it, and you got to try. So I actually got a listing appointment my first day. So you'd think me, of all people, would love cold calling. I don't like it at all. And I remember it was this cringeworthy script, and it's like burnt in my mind, and I can still recite it. And this gentleman picked up the phone, and he's like, funny enough, the wife and I were just thinking about selling our home. When can you come over? So I went to the managers and I said, well, where's this house? Because I don't know Halifax. I just literally moved there about a month before. And so went into the listing appointment, and they looked at me. They're like, well, you're kind of young. How long have you been doing this for? I'm like, oh, just under a year. Yeah. And then just kind of and then just the momentum. And I was fearless. The opportunity was endless. I'm like, you know what? I have nothing to lose, and let's just go for it. So I stayed with them for a few months, but I found the challenge with having men mentors, and I'm very candid about this, it's the verbiage that they use didn't sound right coming from me. So I'm sure you've had the same, the scripts and everything. And, you're going into these listing appointments, and they start talking about our fees, and they start talking about commission. And their line was, well, how would you feel if I came into your workplace tomorrow and asked you for a pay cut? And when the guys would say it, they're like, oh, haha. And then I tried it on one appointment, and they asked me to leave.
Yeah.
So it was just, okay, this sucks. And there was my mentor that I talked very, I wouldn't be where I am now without her. She took me under her wing. She was one of the top producers in North America, and she ran this mega team. And she's like, I need a listing agent, and I will teach you everything I know. And I basically just dove right in.
And that shows you the value of mentorship.
Huge.
It also shows you the value of owning who you are.
Yes.
And what you feel comfortable doing.
Yes.
Not to say you can't step out of your comfort zone. You did the cold calling.
Yes, a little bit.
It does. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because Kenneth Toppin is our next guest.
Yes.
And he's all about door knocking and cold calling. So I'm interested to hear that perspective, because it goes against everything I've ever taught my people.
Right. And it just never resonated with me. And I was lucky. So with her, we were listing 30 to 40 houses a month. And I was going on 5-6 listing appointments a day with her, but I was in the car and I heard everything she said. Yeah. So in reality, it was like getting 10 years of experience within the first year and a bit.
Yes.
And then I went off on my own, and I was in Halifax for about 5 years. And because I'm not from there, I wanted to be back in Ontario. I wanted to come back closer. And a friend of mine challenged me. He's like, well, if you can be a top producer in Halifax, let's see what you can do in Toronto. Wow. So obviously I like it when things are challenging and things are difficult. So I packed up, moved to Toronto, met a guy. That's a whole other story. That's a whole other podcast. And it took 6 months for my license to get transferred. The recession hit. Didn't know anybody. Went through a breakup. My income dropped 90%.
Wow.
And there I was having to figure out Toronto and figure out how to do it. But I always remembered at the time it was people are people and homes are homes. So I just needed an opportunity. So I met a couple that were looking for a young buyer's agent. I was one of the top agents in Halifax when I left, and starting off at the bottom, like below bottom, and had to learn quickly because that's just reality. So
who's going to do it if you're not doing it yourself?
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Well, I mean, and that's such a vastly different environment. I'm actually from the East Coast. I'm from Newfoundland.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, love the East Coast.
Yes,
love
very friendly.
Very friendly, very wholesome people.
Yes.
But then coming to Ontario is a very different way of life. It's fast paced. It's like you're working for the man, they always say, right?
Yes.
It's like you're chasing constantly. So that would be a very, even
it's
just
a rude awakening.
Yeah,
it was a shock.
It would be, but then obviously you've adapted extremely well.
It wasn't easy though.
No, I believe it.
Yeah, it was tough because if you think back, like in Toronto, like I love it, and it's challenging because one, it's so many different little neighborhoods, the traffic, the communities, like nobody gives you a handbook when you move to Toronto to say, here's the terminology.
Yeah.
So even things like, oh, well, where do you live? The beach. Oh, you don't live in the beach, you live in the upper beach. Or what intersection do you live in? Or Forest Hill. And every little community was so different. And I had all this time while I was waiting for my license to come through. So I would just walk neighborhoods and I'd play games. I'd pick homes. I tried, like, 'cause I'm a real estate junkie.
Yeah.
So I'd go to open houses. I'd see what the agents were doing. And the terminology is so different between province and province.
Yeah.
And just, like, I just had to take it all in because I didn't want an opportunity to pass because I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't want to look stupid because I don't like negative attention and I don't like being in situations where I couldn't figure it out. So I just made it kind of my full-time job. And I encourage all young realtors or new agents coming in, like, know the product, know what you're talking about. And like, people are trusting you.
Yes, with a very large transaction.
Yes, and there's 75. I think actually somebody corrected me. They said there's 80,000 realtors in Toronto now.
Wow.
So you have a few seconds, and really, like, if it's your profession and it's what you choose to do, why wouldn't you invest in that time to know it and to, immerse yourself? And I get to know agents because I've always believed, you can't have enough friends in the business.
No.
I know you're big on collaboration. I am as well. And, you got to learn, not everybody's friendly.
No,
and even to this
absolutely
day, I have some people that I remember, starting over and like trying to find lock boxes, and like even in Nova Scotia, they had little like remote controls, and here it was the codes.
Yes, the locker codes.
The locker codes, and then before, like, we would almost sell the property beforehand because we were dealing agent to agent.
That's right.
And here it was receptionist, and we'll page you. I'm like, page, like what?
Why aren't you answering your phone?
Yeah,
Where's your phone number?
Pick up your phone.
Yeah.
And so it was challenging, and I remember like being really beat up, and I almost went back to Halifax. And my dad's tough. Like my dad. He's like, no, you don't go back as a loser. You made your choice. You're going to stay in Toronto and you're going to stick it out. He's like,
I love that.
Yeah, and stuck it out. And there were many tears. And, even to this day, like, I'm very grateful. And I remember those like nice agents.
Yeah.
And I also remember the ones who weren't so nice to me.
That's right. And you know what? It makes a difference in a transaction. It makes a difference in your day, the interactions you have with others.
Yes.
And so I always try to put myself into the perspective of maybe something went wrong with that person's day.
Yeah.
Try to kill them with kindness, or at least try to be vulnerable enough to try to work through it in conversation, right?
Or a little bit of compassion.
That's right. It doesn't take much.
It doesn't. And I find we're really lacking it now. Like even like some of these listings that I have right now, we have tenants, and tenants don't want to allow showings, and I said, the seller has to sell. Can we just please, like, no, and just the lack of compassion, and even agent to agent, it disgusts me sometimes how we treat one another.
Yes.
And I try, like we all started somewhere.
Exactly.
And, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And we've had bad days. And, that little kindness or, hey, like, let's figure it out together. And I find, I really try to elevate kind of the integrity of our profession and really try to promote it. And, not every day is perfect, but, we have some agents that we don't want to cross paths with again. But we have other ones that I would say are my closest friends.
And they're the ones that, when the transaction's coming through them, that it's almost like an uplifting, we can get this done for our clients together.
Yes.
It's a good thing, right?
It's an amazing thing. And what I do like too is, I love some younger agents because I've been around for a while now, and I see the ones who started who I saw struggle. I'm so proud of them.
And that's what it should be.
Yes.
That's what it should be. And I think that's one of the things that we lost in our profession.
Agreed.
Is just because someone else is shining doesn't mean the shade's on you.
No, there's
Lift
enough
each
to go
other
around.
up.
There's enough to go around.
There is.
And I love, or sometimes too, I'll see people kind of struggling, and it's you maybe just pick up the phone. Hey, haven't seen you post in a while, or, is everything okay? And sometimes it's the phone call that we least expect that means the most, I find.
You know what? I'm actually going to do a shout out to Sue Shepard and Cheryl Vansicle, who are in Brantford, not Norfolk, but in Brantford. I'm sure they sell out here too, though. And there have been pivotal times in my career where I've been beaten down as well. And people almost want to hold on to something negative that may not even be true.
Yes.
And it's why would you want that to be true? Why would you want to hold on to that negativity? And those two agents have picked up the phone and called me and said, dust yourself off.
Amazing.
Pull up those big girl
just
pants.
Like goosebumps. Yeah.
Because it's people like that say, you know what, you're better than this.
Yes.
And you are.
Yes.
And I know you are. So just keep going. And that's what we need in this industry.
I agree. And I think too, because it could be so insulated too, I've been in several different brokerages, and I'm very happy with where I'm at right now with the agency. And I love, I love that vibe. The culture. I'm very, very happy. And what really gravitated me towards the agency, I loved what they were doing. And I also liked kind of the creativity that was coming out. And Matt Leonetti and I've just collaborated on a few things.
Yes. So I saw your strut.
Yes. So we have a few new things that we're working on. And he reached out to me. I didn't really know him beforehand. And he reached out. He lost out on a listing. And I was flattered actually that he called. And he's I'm trying to, be taken more seriously on the listing side. He's a lot of people don't see me that way. I'm absolutely.
Yeah.
And I feel we can become better. I know what my weaknesses are and I know what my strengths are. Yeah. So when I moved to Toronto, I knew I was a good agent, but I needed the contacts and I needed to work with busy agents who didn't have time.
Yeah.
So now I recognize this whole new wave of these creative content creators and these public speaking and social media and all this stuff. So to me, it's we're complementing, and it's been a lot of fun.
It has been a lot of fun.
And we're working on I feel I have a friend and a partner, and you're collaborating, and what do you think about this? So we just filmed another video on Tuesday. We went in a completely different direction. And then next week we already have another one for a few other listings. So,
I love that.
Yeah, and it's
we
been
can
great.
all learn from each other.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's the beautiful thing about it is you don't need to reinvent success, but you can make it your own.
Yes.
Right? And that's the beautiful thing about collaboration is why I love it so much, right?
And it's fun.
It is fun. This is a lonely business. There's nothing wrong with pairing up with people, even if it's for listing appointments or social media marketing or conferences, right? So I'm really excited for everybody to hear about what has paved the way to your success, because everyone does things differently.
Yes.
And I find that people always say, Kate, what have you done? Well, I wouldn't say that there's necessarily one specific thing that I've done, but maybe there's a few foundational pieces that I've put together in order to build the success that's right for me. And so we're going to talk about the 3 things that you feel have led to your success.
Okay.
One thing that you wished you had not focused so much time on, because I feel like nobody talks about that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have a tip and a question for you from our previous guest, which was Holly.
Yes.
And then we're going to get a tip and a question from you for our next guest, which I'm actually going to say is Kenneth Toppin.
Okay.
And I'm really excited because we're filming him in May for June's podcast. And the dynamic is changing so differently because his business model is so different, which interests me.
Yes.
Because it's so vastly different than mine. So Why don't you tell us the 3 tips of success, and we'll go one by one through them, and then we'll get into the other stuff in the later part of the podcast.
So 3 tips for success: hard work. Yeah, hard work. It, people often think we have it easy and flexible work schedules. And the tip is like the hard work, and treat it like a full-time. Like I don't even think it's a full-time job. It's a lifestyle. Real estate, professional real estate agents and great professional real estate agents, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you can't do it part-time.
No, I agree with you.
You can't do it part-time. It's full-time, and you have to fully immerse yourself because it's so ever-changing, not just market-wise, technology-wise.
Yes.
Like elements, like all these different things that we're doing now, and that's what I love about it. And so it's the hard work and constantly growing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a 1.5.
Yeah,
I
that's
would
okay
say.
though. But I love the hard work one, because getting to know you through the buzz and watching your social media a little bit more dialed in, what I loved about you was you put in what Ravi Singh said, the WORK.
Yes.
That's not just putting out the content, which I love as well.
Yeah.
But it's showing up for your clients.
Yes.
I loved that video of you
yeah.
blowing the snow
Yes.
off your clients'
I have
patio
even better
furniture.
ones. Yeah, I have even better ones.
But that's like, you know what? I'm here for you. I'm showing up for
Yes.
you. If I got to get a little dirty here, that's okay, because I've got you covered.
Well, and the other thing I find important too, in terms of like the profession and the perception, if you want to see how our public perception is, just read the comments in any article, like a Toronto Life article. The public have such a negative perception of what we do.
Yes.
And I feel that another key element would be, elevating it and showing like we're worth it. Like,
yes.
And again, like with that full time, like nothing makes me more upset when people say like, oh yeah, I just kind of dabble in it, or oh, I just got my license, or oh, I'm just going to get my friend or my Uncle Bob. And it's like, no, like one, that ruins the market. You have an inexperienced person, you might overpay. And so that's a whole other conversation too.
Yes.
But treat it like a profession, and you always have to constantly grow and evolve. And what I'm finding now, the changes are so quickly. Like I look at the biggest changes in the last 20 years. Like when I started, it was like carbon copy. And then I remember web forms coming in, like, oh my God, like we don't have to fax our agreements in. Yes. And then DocuSign.
Yes.
And if you're not constantly kind of keeping up with it or aligning yourself with people who can help you, you're going to be obsolete. So it's a constant, so it's a lot. So working hard and then constantly staying up on like at least being current. And I got an appointment, I got a listing the other day. The agent, she couldn't keep up. She couldn't DocuSign, didn't know anything. And I walked in and they're like, well, they liked me anyways.
Yes, they did.
But it was just like, and it was kind of an eye-opening thing. And what I'm noticing now, and this is why I'm excited with the collaboration with Matt, is the evolution of what he brings to the table. Like, I think he was saying like he gets like 500,000 views. I'm like, I'm happy if I get like 20.
Yeah.
And it's this whole other marketing aspect. And that's something that he really strives at. So if you're not aligning with where your weaknesses are and focusing on your strengths. So, and I guess the 3.5 part would be the, recognizing your strengths and delegate the rest.
This is one of my favorite terms, is leverage.
Yes.
Leverage out your business.
Yes.
I am such an advocate for this. Because although we are professionals and we understand the business and the aspects of it, doesn't mean we can execute with precision every part of the business.
No.
And I'm not a digital creator. I don't know how to do Photoshop in terms of making billboards and pamphlets. I don't know how to do that.
And I don't want to know.
And I don't want to know either.
Yeah.
And even like hiring out professional photos and professional video tours. So I'm seeing agents do their own stuff. I'm like, you have been hired to add value to this listing to be seen in the best light. You can't be a professional realtor and a photographer and a videographer and a social media marketer and all of these things and concentrate your genius on all of them at the same time.
I totally agree.
It's not possible.
And I noticed it too, like, and I don't want to criticize young agents or newer agents. I had a broker's event and I was very excited to see all the, like the videos and the selfies and everything, but they didn't seem to know what real estate was or what the transaction was. It was about them and not about the home. And what makes me nervous when I see agents on showings and it's more about the content as opposed to, hey, look, there's a leak in the foundation or something. And it's a fine line that makes me quite nervous. But again, like collaborating and like recognizing your weaknesses, the leverage. But again, I'm pretty hands-on with like the listings. Like
yes.
I'm very, very, very hands-on. I like the touch points. Like I'm there when the stager consultation goes in. I'm often there with the movers, and I try to solve their problem and inject myself in every way possible to make it like as seamless. So very, very hands-on.
You're coordinating the transaction from start to finish. Yeah, I love that.
And some people may think that might be a bit of overkill. But again, when you're in a very competitive market like mine, people appreciate it.
I think it does too, but it's also, is it overkill though? Or
I don't think it is.
Are you just providing exceptional service?
I think it's exceptional service. Some people, they run their business a little bit differently. Yeah. And I just don't take it for granted. And maybe some people might say micromanager a little bit, but
we're type A personalities.
Just want to make sure it happens.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think if anything, you're going above and beyond for your client.
Yes.
You have provided value to them because you know the value yourself.
Yep.
And you're also making people's lives a little bit easier.
And I love that.
Coordinating all of that, it's a big job.
It is.
And what I want to go back to is your hard work, because what I loved about hearing you speak at the Buzz conference and what I love about who you are, the essence of who you are, is that you are so based in a foundation that I think our profession has got away from. And that is knowing your inventory, knowing your product, even the agent to agent networking of like, hey, listen, like I'm looking for this property. Yes. Do you have it? Or I have this property coming up. You also have a similar property. What's the action on it?
Yes.
And I loved when I heard that, because when I first started in real estate, even though it was, going on 12 years now ago, that was more of what it was, because social media hadn't hit that constant now of just selfies in front of it, which all has a place once again. Yes. But I almost feel like that's taking away from our newer agents coming into the business. Agreed. And kind of creating this smoke and mirrors picture of what it really takes to be a top agent.
Yep.
And knowing your product, boots on the ground, running to ensure you know the inventory, you know the product, collaborating with other agents, that to me is lost.
I agree. And even now, like it's the intel and what you have to go into the home to appreciate. So anytime I have a new listing coming out, I go to all the competition. I go check them out, call the agents, and then I can speak intelligently. Like, so if people try to beat me up on the price, because I seem to, I have a bit of a reputation to, I get the hard ones to sell. They don't always sell overnight.
Yeah.
And I came from a slower market. And I feel that coming from a slower market, it made me a better realtor. Because I had some properties, they're unique properties and they're one buyer.
Yeah.
And sometimes the planets align and that buyer wakes up on the first day of the listing. Yeah. And sometimes it's 2 years after.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's the client relationship. And I think that was a skill set that I didn't realize how invaluable it was until now. And just because a property's been on the market for 2 or 3 days or 30 days, sometimes it doesn't reflect the true story. And if you don't pick up that phone and understand what may be happening, maybe there's a tenant who doesn't want to move out and we've had 15 offers on it, or maybe like the situation has changed.
Yeah.
But until you pick up the phone and get the proper story, you have no idea. Or if you don't know what the other ones looked like to compare. And so again, I find that's something that's lost, and I still do it to this day.
I love that.
Yeah, it's, again, it might be a little bit of an addiction. Like I love it, but I never want to sound stupid, and I never want to lose the confidence or the trust that they put in us. And when you're asked to help somebody with that aspect of their lives with their real estate, it's a privilege.
It is a privilege, but what I love about you, Anna, is you hold yourself to such a high standard.
Oh, thank you.
And I think that is something that we all can strive to do.
Oh, thank you.
Calling it's your time.
Yeah, yeah.
But you've also been hired to put the time in for your client.
Yes.
And I don't know many people who call competing listings to have a one-on-one conversation about what's happening with this listing. I have another listing coming up. Yeah. I'd really like to understand what's gone on here, because the public isn't privy to that information.
They're not. And the other thing too is especially in certain neighborhoods, like I have friends and colleagues that only work in those neighborhoods. And sometimes they get upset when they hear I've been lurking, but They're like, what are you doing in that neighborhood? And then like sometimes it's even, hey, I'm bringing this out, but I'll wait till you sell yours to bring mine out. And then let's let yours sell and shine. And then, give me the love on the way back. And people are like, why would you do that? I'm like, it goes a long way.
It does go a long way. And also you are actually working in the best interest of your client
100%.
Because simple economics, the more inventory there is, the more options to choose.
Yep.
And if you can work together with realtors to collaborate to make everyone happy, that's a win.
I think so too.
That's a win. And it's actually very smart. And side note to that, my team, we do a lot of business in certain neighborhoods within Brantford. And oftentimes we will have, say, similar properties coming up, or we know because we know our inventory coming up. And we know that the best solution for our clients in a market that's moving with prices that are on par to market value, let's get this one sold and then let's release the coming soon right after.
Yes.
Get the overflow from that listing.
It's the strategy behind it.
It is the strategy.
I love the strategy.
And it is a strategy.
If
you've got a good network, which I know you do, of agents who trust and respect you, hey, listen, we had 12 showings on this. These are the agents that showed. Call them, get them into your listing.
Exactly.
That is networking.
Yes.
And it's what we've lost.
The magic. That's the love. And I love it when you can, like when all of that comes together. And I really hope that one thing too that I really like are these podcasts, because it's giving us an opportunity to see like other people's business and what they do. And like, hey, like I liked when you had Andrew Perry, like I didn't realize he had such a strong like referral business. And I love that. And then listening to Holly, like her approach and everything. And then Tanya from Hawkesbury.
Yes.
And then I was thinking like, those are all really nice things. And it's like, unfortunately, like, and I hate to make excuses for Toronto, sometimes we just don't have time. Like, and that's one thing that I miss coming from a slower market is the urgency and this panic. Like I'm always kind of on call, and it's hard for me to commit to, I'd love to be more charitable and with my time, but sometimes like, I had to pay bills and I had to drop things because I had to get that client because it was that. If I were to look back, there's some clients that I wish I didn't drop everything for because I realized I was probably disposable. Luckily, few and far between now, but it still happens.
It does. And I mean, that's to me, when did you realize that in your career? Because me, it was about year 6 or 7. I was dropping everything for everyone, and I started to realize that I'm actually losing myself.
I would say probably year 19. If I'm being honest.
Constant growth, that's okay though. I love that.
It's more in the last few months. And the thing is, like, my family is very supportive. So I'm usually quite private about my personal life, but like I'm not married, probably a reason. Because I was so focused on my career. And because I've never had the stability of a second income or hey, I got you. It was always on me. Yeah. And when you're carrying a lot of listings, because you carry a lot of listings, it's a lot of money going out. So and like it's this urgency, and I hate to think in a scarcity mentality, but it kind of was that for a while.
And we've all been there.
Yes.
We've all been there.
And I've been lucky where things, like I always believe, like I'm always exactly where I need to be. Everything always works out. That's what I always say. But there's sometimes the credit cards come and there's like bills and staging needs to be renewed and it didn't sell. So I had to choose work and clients versus family. And I think I did a video. There was actually a couple from St. Catharines. This is when I first moved to Toronto. They had me run around. I think I showed them like 55 properties.
Wow, that's a lot.
I left my parents' 50th wedding anniversary early because I had to make money. Yeah. And they ghosted me. They bought privately behind my back. And a few months later, they sent me an envelope of $500. Like that didn't even cover the gas or the parking or anything.
No, or your time.
Or my time. And I left my family, but they were like, no, like we support you. We love you. Like my parents and my family are very wonderful that way. But over the years, it's been challenging for me to find that balance. What made me a good realtor or a great realtor, depends who you ask, is because I was so client focused. But I'm not always the best friend and not always the best daughter or like girlfriend, wife or whatever, because it's just so focused. And that's one thing I would definitely change if I could.
So that's actually right into our next part is what would you do differently?
Yeah.
But I mean, I look at this and I think, okay, so, and I've been there. Yeah. I was to the point where I drove myself sick.
Yes.
And then I needed to take a step back. I'm always, I'm a very introspective person.
Yes.
It's both a strength and a weakness. A strength because I'm constantly trying to evolve to make myself better.
Yep.
A weakness because I beat myself up.
Yes.
Right? And
We're
that's
our
our
own worst
thing.
critics.
We are.
Yes.
We are. And so, I mean, okay, so your client focus, that's not necessarily a negative, but are you fulfilled in your career?
100%.
See?
I love it. I love every minute of it. I couldn't imagine. I do have like some periods where I don't love it as much.
Yeah.
And I go through these little like, kind of disenchantment kind of feelings. But again, I always believe the right people come into my life when I need them.
Yeah.
So when I was going through a little bit of this, like, I'm like, something's just kind of missing. That's when Matt reached out.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. I'm like, this is a perfect time. I'm like, he's like, really? I said, no, honestly. And I've been very excited. And, being at the agency and like, again, that's like collaboration and like the community and like the feel and stuff. Because at my old brokerage, I didn't have that. And I wanted, I said, I've been doing this for so long. What's next and what will make me feel better?
It's almost like you're stepping out of your shell when
Yes.
these bigger things happen.
Yes.
And an unsolicited, I guess, comment about you and Matt, I think it's the perfect pairing.
Oh, thank you.
And what I love about this is because I'm a fan of Matt's too. I think he's such a vulnerable, authentic person.
He is wonderful.
And I think people need to look at him more as a whole than just the reels he puts out, which, by the way, I'm a fan. I watch all of them. I share most of them. Is that he has this edge to him that's still kind and still hardworking.
I was intimidated. Yes, yeah.
But funny.
Very
and you
funny.
have this poise and class about you. What a good mix.
Yes.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, we're very excited. We've been getting very positive feedback and it's been fun. It's just been fun. And the fact that we're trying to do things just differently. And, like Paul Greenberg, love him. And then like we have like such a small office. And very exciting things happening there. So I'm very happy. And again, I think I needed it because I've been a lone wolf for like most of my career, I would say. And I was getting kind of lonely.
I've said this from day one.
Yeah.
It's a lonely business when you don't surround yourself with good people.
It's true. And it's hard, especially like another thing that I've always been kind of good at is I'm always kind of, I don't want to say the misfit or the underdog, but it seems like I'm usually the only woman in a room. Like I grew up on a street where I was the only girl. So like I was always a little bit different. Not from Toronto, I wasn't from Halifax. Like, so there's always a little bit different. And I've been able to kind of make that more of a strength than a weakness.
Yes.
To be able to focus on, that's good. That's good to be different. It's good to stand out.
But it's also good to ingrain yourself in who you are.
Yes.
And believe in yourself.
Yes.
And it's okay to not be like everyone else.
100%.
Because it's how you stand out.
Yes.
And I don't think that's a bad thing.
Standing out is wonderful, and that's why I try to do that. And now it's like it's fun to stand out, but be part of something.
Yes.
Yes.
And do it together because it is lonely.
Yeah.
So then would you say for new agents or experienced agents that are watching this, the one thing that you would not pay too much attention to would be?
Oh my God, I had a list when I was driving today. Coaching, a lot of coaching, programs. It's not a quick, easy fix.
No, it's not.
It works well for some people. I know people make a lot of money and to have made a lot of money from coaching. That's something I would have done differently. And maybe not trust some people because again, with the ever changing, you're always looking, like if somebody's offering to help, I can help you, like lead generators or the easy fix or something. It's like, okay, sure. And here's my money and all this stuff and it's going to work. But for me, it just never did.
And nothing takes the place of hard work.
Nothing takes the place of hard work. And if I go back, I look at programs that I signed up for, like coaching, all this stuff, and it's just not for me. And again, I know some people who follow certain systems and everything, and that works. It just didn't for me, and I could have saved myself the
Thousands?
time. Lots of
money.
Let's just say a lot more of these shoes and a lot more. And then the other thing too is like sometimes like we don't need to fix what's not broken. Like I've probably spent way too much on like updating websites when the website I had was just fine. Like I didn't need to. Like
a very close realtor to me once told me that social media made him sick.
Yeah.
And he's in the business for 20 plus years himself, and he does not want to get into the social media. Supports other people who do it,
Yes.
sees the value in others, but he is more of the person who drops things off at doors.
Okay.
Who has the one-on-one conversations, who keeps in contact with the past clients
Yes.
on a very personal level. And that works for him.
Yes.
So he's not reinventing that wheel. We may want to, maybe our business, it suits us. Maybe we feel confident doing it.
Yeah.
But you're right. You don't have to fall in line with everybody else.
You don't. Like, actually, one of my favorite realtors in the beach, I'm like, I tried to find you on Instagram. She's like, I don't do it. And she did like 8 deals last week.
That's incredible.
Yeah, she's a machine. She makes me look lazy. And I'm like, I can't find you. She's like, nope, don't do it. Didn't need it, don't need it. Like, and she's like, I don't advertise, word of mouth.
Wow. But you know what, though? That's your strongest advocate, is someone else telling someone else to tell someone else, and all of a sudden that exponentially grows.
And she's so well respected.
Well,
and she's like, I don't need it. I'm like, okay. Yeah. So I look at my business in terms of, like, you know, past clients. I look at, you always have to have like different sources of the business.
Yes.
You know, if it's referrals or networking or whatever, you always have to have different pillars, and you can't just rely on one.
No, you can't.
And I've never relied on my brokerage to provide me with leads. If I got one, it was a bonus.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this is fantastic.
Yeah, it was a gift from God. It literally fell from the sky.
Yeah.
Didn't rely on it. I never really sat around, like, I don't go into the office because, again, traffic.
Yeah.
I like to multitask, and I always got more done at home. And I didn't want to be surrounded by negativity.
Yeah, it's a big one.
And some offices are like the vibe in here is wonderful, and it's like you cheerlead, and you know there's a lot of positivity, but as you know, there's a lot of offices that don't.
They do, and they focus on the wrong things.
Yes.
They focus on the wrong things, and that's why, you know, if you're unhappy where you are not a tree. Get up and move.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. And
complainers need somebody else to complain with. So that's why, like, I really surround myself and kind of insulate myself with like good people.
Yes.
Very, very selective who gets my time. And yeah, I'm fortunate that way. But yeah, so getting back to that, like, what would I not invest? Yeah, like websites and
lead gen.
Lead gens. Yeah. Yeah,
it is. It's people think that's an instant gratification. If I give some money, I'll get that back. Well, no, it's actually just the hard work.
Oh, if you get one deal, it pays for itself. You've heard that.
Yeah,
right?
all the time. It's like, okay, but the conversion rate is like 0.02%.
Yeah.
So I would rather make connection.
Me too.
Talk to people one-on-one. Get some kind of an emotional relationship built where there's trust, right? And be vulnerable with them. That's what people crave, in my opinion.
I think they crave it even more now.
Yes.
And it's almost, I don't know about you, but like I find when you do have that kind of interaction or you make that connection, they almost look like they want to hug you. And
yes.
like, they're like so happy and everything. And that's where I think that compassion and just listening and, you know, I think that goes a long way. So
I do too. And I think that that's what we need to get back to.
Yeah.
And so from our last podcast with Holly,
yes.
She gave a tip that I'd love your feedback on, specifically for you,
yes.
was don't attach yourself to a deal, a transaction.
Yes.
Attach yourself to your goals, your purpose, and your end mission.
I love it. I love it.
And I loved it too, because I felt, don't attach yourself to one instance that happens. Mm-hmm. Keep in back of mind what your purpose is. Right. What is your goals here? What do you feel about that? So
actually, it resonates with me a lot because about a month ago, I got blindsided by a client. Mm-hmm. And like, you know, you have like those clients that you just feel like, you know, they're your people.
Yeah.
Thought everything was good and they were ready to list with me, and they ghosted me for about 2 days and listed with someone else.
Oh.
Didn't call me. These were people I had a good relationship with and were ready to go, and I saw it come online. And I was so like shocked and hurt, and it probably, like, when I say take me down at my knees, I was probably down for about 3 days.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see it coming. I racked my brain for days. Like, what could I have done better? How did I miss this? And it makes me feel better. It hasn't sold yet.
Yeah.
But it took me down for a few days,
yeah.
and I was like kind of lost my confidence because I have some people that I've worked with. I know they have a few other realtors and like they're transactional, but that one hurt.
Because you didn't see it coming.
Didn't see it coming. And I felt because we had worked together so well for the last few years, I'm like, wow, like if they could do that,
Who else could?
Who else could? And I really got deep in my head. So when Holly recommended that, I'm like, yeah, it's true, because we're more than just our work.
Yes.
Even though the purpose is, like, I do feel 100% fulfilled. I love helping people, and that's what I really get from the industry. But then I looked at it, and a friend of mine, Alex Brott from Sage, who I absolutely adore, I remember her saying, I ran into her one day, and I think I lost out on the listing. And she's like, good. I'm like, what do you mean good? And she's like, you don't want somebody who doesn't want you. I'm like, that's a good point. And she's like, say thank you for the listing you didn't get. I'm like, she's like, because now that's opening you up for something else. And I remember her, I'm like, well, it sucks to lose.
Yeah,
but then I thought about it, and it's like, you have all these other people who would die for our time or appreciate our time. You don't want to work with people who you could just be so disposable to.
That's right.
Yeah, so I really liked what Holly had to say about that. And I would say it's true, because, there's ups and downs, and we have some days that are really hard, and we have to like dust ourselves off and get back up.
I agree. And her question for you, which I loved this question, would you still do real estate if it wasn't for the money?
100%.
And because you say 100%, would you change anything?
I would change, I would like to
no work on Sundays?
Yeah, I know. I know some agents who do that, and I said, I admire that. But the thing is, what would I change? I probably have a little bit more. I delegate a little bit more to have a bit more of a life and kind of appreciate those moments and understand that we're not saving lives. So sometimes putting the phone down and being present, that's what I would change. And that's something I really struggle with, because again, I have a reputation of being very accessible.
Yes.
And a lot of my clients and friends would say, like, if I don't answer within about an hour, something's probably like wrong. Like, like send out an APB, like she's not, like something's happening.
Yeah.
So really enjoy the moments. And I was able to spend a few days with my parents on the weekend. The first time I saw them in 6 months.
Wow.
They live in Kingston. So I should be making more time
Yeah.
for my family, because life's too short.
Life is too short, and I think I can resonate with that as well. I am a slave to the notifications, and something I've been working on for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Because you're right, life goes by fast. Those small moments, which are really the big moments, they go by fast, and you want to be present for them.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I think that's what I would change, and that's something I'm trying to work on this year.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No, it's not.
It's not.
A lot of discipline.
Yeah, and now I find too, the challenge is there's so many different platforms for people to reach you.
Yes.
And before it was easy, it was like email and phone, and now it's like, oh, I sent you a DM, or I sent you an Instagram. I don't even know all of them. Snapchat, Facebook Messenger. I said, like, I need, like, I said, like, just send me an email, because I know, like, my right hand, like, she'll read them if I'm driving, and I'm in the car a lot, and I can't get to everything. And that's where I find, like, that fast pace kind of go. But I kind of get off on it. Like,
I hear you. I hear you. It's also thrilling.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's like, I could do without this for right now.
Yes. And
moments.
There's some days where I just like, okay, just enough. But then I get kind of nervous.
Yeah.
Because again, like, you have to be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
And, and I love it. Like, I still like so getting back to it, I never got into it for the money. I got into it for the opportunity. And I always do better when it's challenging.
Yeah.
I perform, obviously, like moving to Toronto, like I must need to have my head examined for that. And, I thrive on it, and I'm very goal oriented. So, if I'm working towards something, I perform my best.
Yeah. I love that though. You're good under pressure.
Very good under pressure.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's how diamonds are made.
Yeah. And I just, I love it, and I like the challenge of it. But what I found funny is I used to carry 15 listings on my own with no assistant, no marketing team, nothing. So when I moved to Toronto, I'm like, well, what do you do with all your time? I'm like, oh yeah, you're stuck in traffic.
Yeah, that's
You're stuck in traffic. That's
right.
what you're doing. And I fundamentally love helping people. Like, I love the relationships that we build with our clients.
Yes.
And they're not just clients, they're friends. And sometimes, like, after the last purchaser's visit or anything, I'm like, I miss you guys.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need me anymore.
It's almost like that, what is it called when you, like
withdrawal.
Withdrawal,
Yeah.
That's right.
And I'm lucky, because, like, I would say I'm very blessed. 99% of my clients I love. I love. And I'm so, like, I watch them, they get married and they have kids, and, like, you're part of it. So I get a lot of intrinsic value. And I fundamentally like helping.
Yeah.
And so, I would definitely do it. still.
Yeah, that's a good thing because we still have a lot in us.
I do, yeah. And I still have big goals to hit too.
Yeah, that's a good thing though.
Yeah, so it's very good.
So now for our next guest.
Yes.
What's the one tip you would give?
The one tip I would give is be open-minded to looking at, again, the collaborations. So maybe like recognizing what your weaknesses or where you could be better, and be receptive to these younger agents.
Yes.
And I think that, we're so territorial, or we can be open to it, and it's for the greater good, because you never know that there's a benefit to that.
There is.
And I think we need to be more open-minded and be open to helping and giving. Change.
Adaptability.
Yes.
It's a huge thing.
Because I think the tip for that would be, if we don't adapt, we're going to be
obsolete.
Yeah. And I'm seeing it a lot now.
Yes. And it's we're also changing the game, right?
Yes, very quickly.
Very, very quickly. And if you don't keep up, then you will feel more obsolete. And then you get in your own head and you're like, am I good enough? Am I doing the right things? So then what would your question be? My question would be, who do you respect the most in the industry? I love that.
And why?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the why is a big one.
Yeah, the why.
The why is a big one.
Yeah.
Who do you respect in the industry?
I respect hard workers.
Yeah.
I respect, and when I say that, like, I know some people who, started from nothing and worked very hard, but I also know people who inherited maybe like I say, like real estate dynasty, but they worked hard to maintain it. Just because you got it, and I feel bad because we tend to be so judgmental, and it's like, oh, well, her father was, such and such. Well, she ran it, a very successful business, and taking it to the next generation. We have to give credit to that. So I respect
absolutely hardworking
people.
And why take that away?
It's not their, like, people don't choose who they're
related to.
Yeah. And, and I think we have to realize and respect people for their hard work and what they're doing that way. So.
And absolutely. And the one thing I think of is you could have someone who started from the ground up and they had to put hard work in.
Yeah.
Then you have the person who comes in and was taking over a business, but they have big shoes to fill.
Yes.
They have an obligation to either perform at the same level or outperform. That's a lot to put on somebody.
It's a lot. And I think we need to be a little bit more, so I respect a lot of anybody who's a hard worker. And I respect too when I see when they evolve, or you see like there's some women, I usually really respect women, because we have a lot more on our plates. Like we have, you have 3 kids and you run a big team. So I respect you. And, I respect like one agent I just did a deal with, like she's a machine. And I mean that in the utmost respect, and hard working. And I heard she's out door knocking the other day. I'm like, oh my God, amazing. Yeah. And I love that because it's again, it always comes back to hard work. I appreciate it and I respect it. And
well, you know what it takes to do it.
Yes.
So I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I am so grateful that you made the trip from Toronto.
I'm grateful. Thank you.
I am so grateful. I love everything about you. I love your energy. I love your hard work.
Thank you.
And I think you're a good mentor for people to look up to who are coming into this business, because it's not just about the glitz and glam, the social media, the content. It's about the boots on the ground running, the foundation, the service to your clients, and to outperforming yourself, constantly growing.
Yes.
And so if you want to find Anna on social media, she's the Anna Oliver, which I love saying that because you really are the Anna Oliver. Why don't you tell them where else they can find you?
The easiest way would be my website, annaoliver.ca, or Instagram.
The Anna Oliver.
The Anna Oliver at Instagram. Yes, I have to get used to that.
Yeah,
yes.
I like saying it, so I'll say it for you. So if you want to see the Anna Oliver, we will be releasing her podcast in May, the first week of. If you'd like to follow her on Instagram or go to her website, she does sell in the Toronto area with the agency. And stay tuned for our next podcast, which will be airing in June with Kenneth Toppin. We appreciate you tuning in and watching, and we will see you again.